Before the video begins, I want to let you know that I started a podcast channel with Birdkeeper Toby. Every episode we randomly generate a Pokemon and see which crazy topic the conversation can take us. When you're done with this video, make sure to click the link in the description and subscribe to our Calm Mind podcast channel, where the first 3 episodes are already live. Enjoy! Hey guys, Ron here, and a few months ago I made a video in which I redesigned some of your fan-submitted Pokemon. You wanted me to do that again, so here is part 2. I asked you guys to send some Fakemon for me to redesign over on Twitter. I didn't pick the ones that were too good to improve, but rather ones with a lot of potential, but needed a bit more development. It was super fun translating them into Pokemon's art style and using Pokemon's design philosophy, so leave a like and subscribe to let me know if you guys want part 3. And if you want to participate in the next part, here are the 3 rules. You have to follow me on Twitter, then create a Fakemon on a white background and tweet it out with hashtag TrueGreen7Redesign3. Try to add some kind of description of the Pokemon in your tweet, and if your drawing is on paper, make sure the picture is as clear and well lit as possible. But the most important thing is don't include @TrueGreen7 in your tweet. Don't submit more than 4 Fakemon, and I won't be redesigning fusions, evolutions of real Pokemon, or regional forms. Only completely original Pokemon. Remember that it's okay if you prefer the original design, it's all subjective, so be nice. That's all. Let's begin! So the first design I want to get my paws on is Horden Ranger's Sprinkley. It's very cute and the concept makes sense, a monkey that puts out fire with its hose tail. I mean, we already have Panpour and Simipour. It's crazy how well the color scheme works in this design though. It really popped out when I saw it. And based on the dex number, I'm going to assume it's a starter Pokemon, so I'm going to try to make it look a bit more like a starter. So a bigger head and tinier body. We already have a fire monkey and grass monkey starters, so let's complete this trio. So it's a pretty simple design and I'm gonna make it even simpler so it fits the mold of a starter. First I'm gonna draw the monkey itself before moving on to the patterns. I want to make sure the hair looks like a water drop, but still look the same as the original. I gave it big eyes to make it cuter and more prominent cheek fur. The key to making a cute Pokemon, especially a starter, is giving it a big forehead like a baby. Big eyes and forehead, at least compared to the original. The final design will have an even bigger forehead and look even better, trust me. I want the belly to look chubby like a baby monkey, and the limbs are literally just monkey limbs. I'll be changing the proportions a ton to see what works best. The original design has a bit too many of these reflective patterns, and starters really overdo it in the pattern department, so just one on the belly and each arm is sufficient. I originally added these lines to mimic a firefighter helmet, but I scrapped it later. I thought it was silly to have literal water come out of the tail hole, but this looks too much like a Simipour's tail, so I embraced the water and it turned out great. More natural than I thought. The colors are pretty much a lighter version of the original, but I spent a lot of time finding the current shade, cause blue skin always looks unnatural. Say hello to Sprinkley, the hose Pokemon. Sprinkley are naturally compelled to put out fires. They run around in packs filled with members of its evolutionary line, putting out fire after fire. They don't contain as much water as their evolved form, so at the sight of tame fires, Sprinkley mostly focus on watching and learning the methods at which fires are put out. But when responding to raging fires, Sprinkley desperately help, to the point of exhaustion. The reflective patterns on Sprinkley allow members of its pack to find them in dangerous locations, and even to locate other Sprinkley when they don't have enough power to put out a fire. A tailbone at the end of their tail can retract to pressurize or even shut off flow of water from their tail. Sprinkley has the abilities Torrent and Storm Drain. I'm very proud of how this turned out. Originally I wasn't too sure if it was interesting enough since the Simipour line already exists, but this became a very appealing Pokemon and separate enough from the other water monkeys. This is kind of the exact designs I wanted to see from this series. So good job, Horden Ranger. I hope you enjoyed the redesign. Next is Boaranite by Crimson Drake 15. A clay Indian boar based on Greek pots that can turn its torso 360 degrees. What's cool is that I had a feeling this Pokemon can turn its body around even before reading its description, so it definitely conveyed this concept very well, but I think a more dynamic pose would help communicate that too. I want to make the head and body more seamless, and maybe incorporate the shape of an actual Greek pot or vase. That way the concept is a bit clearer. It's a great Fakemon, and I'd be very happy to redesign it. I want its body to be made up of the shapes of a vase. It could work, but first I gotta find a natural way to implement this crest on its back. It would look unnatural if it connected to the head the way it does in the original, because the head is completely separate. I gave it a more dynamic pose, as if it's spinning and revving up to punch you. Now I finally made the head in the shape of a pot, with the snout as the hole for the vase. It all came together once I gave it a lower lip. I gave it the pattern of a soldier's helmet, and now it's basically just time to add all the other attributes the original has. Deciding which heat pads to keep was a tough decision. I simplified some of the body parts because it's an already intricate Pokemon, and gave it these Greek patterns on its legs instead of generic mud. Now the design is fine, but I didn't notice until later how awkward it looks with its body rotated in the other direction, even if it makes sense for the concept. So in the final design, its legs are flipped. The color scheme of the original will be kept, but know that a limited color palette is sometimes better. The original has 3 different kinds of grays, so I kept one of them and made sure it wasn't too close to the dark brown on its body. Meet Boaranite, the Revolution Pokemon, a ground fire type. Boaranite's hide is made of clay and can withstand extreme temperatures. While they can easily crack, they are able to repair themselves instantly. Boaranite is able to radiate fire from the multiple heat pads on its body. They are able to rotate their torso 360 degrees, allowing them to attack hordes of enemies that try to surround it. They are fantastic builders, able to manipulate earth to create mud that they instantly turn into clay. They have the abilities Iron Fist and Steam Engine, but have a new hidden ability called Temper, which draws in all fire-type moves and raises its defense. Boaranite was the toughest to redesign since it has one of the most extreme shapes I've ever put on a Pokemon. It was pretty tough trying to streamline it in a way that gave it the shape of a pot without changing it too much from the original design. I think I found a happy medium. Boaranite was perfect in terms of concept, and the execution was well done too. 100% the kind of idea I would have had, so Crimson Drake's got some skills. Now it's finally time to design Nefier Del Rio starters. They're all pretty adorable, but we just had a Chameleon starter in Generation 8, and I personally don't think Game Freak would make a starter that looks like a straight up Japanese ghost. But this Firestone makes the most sense and has the most interesting color scheme and patterns. The original here looks a bit more like a second stage starter with its longer body and intricate patterns, which I totally get. It's very tough to make a first stage starter. A lot of artists, including myself, will accidentally add too many details. The biggest change I'm gonna make is giving it the proportions of a starter and toning down the patterns. I'm basically trying to make its body a bit more similar to a Stoat without making it look like a completely different Pokemon than the original. The eyes are a bit droopy and the mouth open with those fangs looks a bit goofy, but I gotta keep them while making them more simple. The bigger head makes it look more like a starter Pokemon, but the patterns were the toughest to redesign. It has a lot of them. I think it flows pretty well now, but its neck seemed bare, so I added these flame-like tufts of fur. That completed the design. The original design had a bit too many colors: black, gray, burgundy, pink, red, tan, and 4 different shades of orange. You'll never find this many colors that are similar on the body of a Pokemon unless that's part of the concept, especially not on a starter. So I think it's appropriate to leave 4 colors. That means making the eyes white so that they don't look too much like Litten eyes. It also makes it look less sick. Now here is Stoatorch, the Stoat Pokemon. Stoatorch are both cautious and curious. They love exploring, but easily get themselves into trouble. They can ignite their tail like a match using friction. They're troublesome, but mean well. They love to surprise trainers by popping out of tall grass, but will run away when confronted with a serious foe. Stoatorch has the ability Blaze and Flash Fire. Honestly, it's tough making something like a starter Pokemon without completely changing the proportions. If I wasn't trying to make it still seem like the original, I would have given it completely different eyes and mouth, but the eyes are the windows to the soul, so I didn't want to make it feel like a completely different personality. At the end of the day, I'm a big fan of the idea and color scheme of Nefier's design. Before moving on to the final redesign, here are a bunch of honorable mentions. Massey 145's elephant foot concept was genius. If they developed the design a bit more, it could have been in. I love the patterns on Amy's Kookaburra family. And the shading of this Pokemon by Bad Artist Boy was actually really mesmerizing. The idea of a caterpillar that looks like a Rayquaza makes total sense. And Acid Bark Beast designs are amazing. I wouldn't have done much, honestly. They just needed to be translated into Sugimori style. I like the feel of Jay's bug type here, but the concept can be fleshed out a bit more. While the snake here rocks, I just want to say that Light Dragon Zuma's Sea Slug? That looks perfect. It could easily be a real starter. This concept and design by Schmeptic is insane. I love it. A bit hardcore for Pokemon, but a spicy design regardless. Same with Kingdom Cell's design. It's beautiful and perfect, and would make sense as a legendary or pseudo-legendary Pokemon. Retalian is an interesting concept, and the pose is pretty neat. Carbice doesn't really need any change. These sushi cats are great designs, and concepts that wouldn't work in Pokemon, but they're fantastic designs in general. Same with Horizol here. This parakeet line is beautiful. Some differentiation between each stage, and they would be perfect. I wouldn't really change anything about Spookrow, and I'm a big fan of the color schemes and designs of some of Electronic Star's Pokemon. Zimli clearly has artistic skills and great designs. They don't really need me. Toxin Leaf is cute and interesting, so is Mine Apple. Cimarrock is beautiful, but not a concept or design that Pokemon would normally do. All these Ultra Beasts are fantastic, and these mushrooms are pretty much perfect. I really like the shading work on this design, and this entire line is actually very well done. A bit too simple, but no actual flaws. But last and not least, I'm gonna redesign Pompascorch by Lapis Raven. I know this seems like a fire type special, but it's a good thing we have Sprinkley to put out the fires. This is a great design, but I'm definitely going to streamline it a bit. That doesn't mean I'm going to remove details, but rather just make the design flow better. I want to give it a more interesting pose and showcase his personality, because this design would translate into Pokemon style very well. Honestly, the pose and colors are going to be the biggest difference. I want to make it look more confident so it's looking up. I'm going to give it pockets so it can store its loot. I want to make it have some swagger, you know? It's going to be more bottom heavy, but also its legs are going to look more like the baggy pants of a Japanese delinquent. Its pointy feet are also reminiscent of a Yankee's shoes. Its flame pompadour was tough to sculpt, but here it is. It looks a bit different, but that's because the angle isn't the same as the original. Just finishing up this fur jacket, kind of like Pangoro. I want to make the fur pattern on its stomach look like it's wearing pants up high, like a Japanese punk. And I made its feet point upwards, but I completely scrapped that in the final version. Don't worry. I want to make the colors flow better than in the original, so I switched them up a bit. I originally gave its bottom half black fur, but I soon realized the color scheme of the original looked more natural, so I made it a bit longer and more saturated too. Now check out Pompascorch, the delinquent Pokemon, a fire dark type. This Pokemon loves to get into trouble and will fight its way out of consequences. It is proud of its fire pompadour. Within gangs of Pompascorch, the Pompascorch with the most fire on its head is the leader. Pompascorch are always loyal to their leader, including their trainer. While this Pokemon is always picking fights, they still relish leisurely time where they can relax and have fun with their friends. Pompascorch attacks by lighting their hand on fire with their pompadour and shooting the flames from their fingertips. They will light a ball of fire in their hands to threaten others. They're able to store valuable objects in their pockets. They have the abilities Blaze and Intimidate. I do wonder how popular this Pokemon would be as a starter Pokemon. I hope Lapis Raven doesn't mind the Dark type edition. I was afraid that it would be too redundant with the existence of Typhlosion and Fernape, but I think I did a fine job differentiating it from them by leaning into the Japanese delinquent concept. I truly did get a kick from the original design, probably the best executed one of the four, although I think the name Pompatorch would have been slightly better. A few years ago, I designed a rat Pokemon that I think was one of the worst Pokemon I ever designed, so I'm glad I was able to redeem myself and show the growth of my abilities through this rat Pokemon. Thanks, Lapis Raven, and thank you guys for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed and want to see part 3, and subscribe to know when that comes out. Make sure to follow the instructions at the beginning of the video if you want to participate in the next episode, and check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made for you guys, and my Twitter, which you need to follow to take part in this fun. I'll see you guys very soon.